First, I just wanted to ask you guys signed a player this week. You announced that you signed Larrys Mabiala. He's been in training at least a day or two. What have you seen out of him just in the first few glances, and what are you hoping? It's going to be a little bit before he can play, but what are you hoping he's going to be able to bring to this team?
Yeah, he was in training today for the first time he was here all weekend. He had a chance to watch the match, which was good. He's been following our team for months. We've been in contact with him since February, and he was the player we targeted all along. We just couldn't get the deal done and get him released from his club until the summer transfer. So that's the only reason he's not been able to come until now. His club was in a relegation battle, and they wouldn't let him go. He was a key player for them, and you know, so the good news is he's here now, and we'll have the opportunity to transition him in over the next 2.5 weeks, and he should be available to play prior to the RSL match once the window opens. Whether or not he'll be ready to play or whether or not, you know, we'll put him in that game will remain to be seen based on his fitness. He's coming off an off season. So he'll need some time to get fit and to get sharp and get acclimated.
You guys, like you just said, have been targeting him for a while. So what is your hope once he is acclimated and ready to see minutes that he can bring to this back line?
Yeah, he's an athletic player. He's strong. He's a big boy and very good on set pieces and has good feet as well. So the thought was that he could be a starting caliber right central defender. You know, who would give us an athletic, strong, physical type player to help win balls in the air, on the ground, and he has, like I said, good feet as well to start the attack out of the back. He's also a leader. He speaks English, and you know that should help him transition a little bit, you know, quicker.
Looking ahead to this weekend, you kind of talked about some of the themes after the Seattle game in terms of just needing to have a killer instinct, needing to have the right mentality, not be complacent. The complacency thing is something you mentioned last year as well, particularly on the roads, and I think it's something you had talked about, you know, emphasizing that you don't want that in preseason. Is there anything different you've done with the group this week to try to get that message across and make sure that there's a different mentality at Kansas City?
Like I said after the game, I mean, it's just on the players to make sure inside the lines that they're, what I would say, professional. You know, when you're professional, you don't need a coach to motivate you. You know, that's a very talked about thing with especially supporters who haven't been at this level. You know, I even think Popovich, you know, has had a laugh about that when people say, you know, why don't you motivate the players? Players are professionals. They should be motivated every time they take the field. And, you know, clearly the coach is always going to try to stimulate the spirit. And I know a part of my job is to make sure that they're inspired. But if you're not inspired as a player, if you're not locked in and focused and alert and switched on for 90 minutes, you know, then over time, there's going to be some periods, but then something's wrong, you know. And so we have a very good team. We have a good group of guys that I know are all on board, that want to do something special this year. But I think it's taken getting punished a little bit for them to know that they can't let their guard down. And I think, you know, human nature, no matter what you say or do or how professional these guys are, kicks in sometimes when things are going well or when maybe you don't smell the danger. So those are messages I give. We watched video again, and we showed the second half. We showed key plays in the second half, the trends that, you know, and the patterns that have to change. But I can't go in the game and play the game. You know, I can give them the guidance, and I can show them, you know, keep the ball, and I can show them, you know, you need to not foul here. I can show them in the last 10 minutes, you know, you got to, you know, be smarter when the ball goes out of bounds, of slowing the game down or going to corners or not losing the ball. So those are all things that I'll tell them, but they're all things they know and they accept and they realize. And for me, there's no better time than to try to change this trend Not because, we're a bad team right now, but because we want to be a great team. And that's what it's about. And they agree 100%, because they want to be a great team. And they realize that second half and some of the other games, Colorado second half, and a few, you'd say Dallas when we were ahead, a couple times, and even Columbus when we were ahead, that if we want to be a great team, you have to, show that mental toughness, and that's individual players and that's collectively as a group. And it's a combination. It's individuals making sure they make the right decision, the right play, but it's also collective, that feeling that they have, and also it's holding guys accountable. It's internal accountability. And I've been around teams that have it, and this team has it, but we got to show it more, and we got to show it for 90 minutes home and away, and we need to show it whether we're up a goal, down a goal. We need to show it all the time, and that's what I'm going to continue to demand and bring out in this group. And they want to be that type of team, and that's the good news. There's no pushback. They want to be a great team, but they need to suffer a little bit through some lack of results and failing a little bit, I think, in order to finally get that maybe that point across. So I think the best thing that happened was we gave up that last goal. Best thing, because ultimately we could have got through the game and we could have got 3 points, and then it continues to fly under the radar, and we don't become the team that we want to be, and we don't become a team that's hard and tough and puts our foot on teams' throats and has that killer instinct. And so I've always felt when you have something happen like happened, it's a byproduct of not breaking a pattern. Well, finally we're going to break it, and the players will have an opportunity on the road against a tough opponent to show that, back at home versus the best team in the league, one of them in Chicago, and the proof will be in the pudding in what they show.
Caleb, can you update us on Darlington and Liam and what their status is?
Yeah, Liam won't be available this weekend. He's not ready. Darlington, questionable. We don't know. We won't rule him out yet, but hasn't trained this week. So he's definitely questionable for the match. We'll know in the next several days. We had some new injuries after the game. Amobi Okugo has an MCL sprain. He's out 4 to 6 weeks. Diego Chara, hamstring strain, out 4 weeks. Jack Barnaby re-injured his calf training yesterday, so he's probably out again another couple weeks. So we're managing a few more injuries. And Guzman's obviously away with Costa Rica for the Gold Cup.
So let's talk about how you've been doing this all year, it seems. So is it just another week on the board, especially at center back, where it seems like it's just been a merry-go-round?
Yeah.
How are you keeping guys sharp? Because you talked about the depth and building it in the preseason. I guess how is that competition paying off now, if it is?
Yeah, I mean that's where the depth's tested, obviously, and it's your preparation every single day and every single week, not just with the 11 but everybody, and that's why you prepare for the worst always, and you train, 22 guys to play every single day, and you keep them ready and you keep them sharp, because things like this happen in this league, and you just have to manage it, and you manage it by having guys ready. You manage it by having, good depth. So this is another week where we're going to be thin, and yet we're going to go into the game, and have a group of guys that I know will put their best foot forward, and I believe that we'll have a chance to win the game and get 3 points, even though we have some key guys out.
How does it help? For lack of a better word, that Kansas City is obviously going to be without some key people too, and how does that influence preparation for you?
Yeah, I mean, some weeks it's about, it's less about the preparation, more about getting the lineup right and making good decisions there, and, with this week, we had 20 days without a day off. We had a lot of games on the road. It was a very tough window, and mentally, the results didn't go great. So I want the group fresh in this game. It's another road game, and we have another window where we come back on Wednesday. So it'll be less about, kind of grinding them and killing them in training. It'll be more about mentality, watching video, messages, and picking the right lineup. And we have some things to manage for sure. And holding mid, center back, we're as thin as we've ever been. With KC, obviously they're managing it too, so it just says the way this league is. The windows that we play in, the heat, the travel, all that, this is why you get injuries.
So did the injury to Chara and Kuko obviously happen during the game, second half, or do you know when they happened, and how did that maybe influence performances late in the game?
Yeah, well, I think the Moby's happened on the last play. And if you watch it, his leg buckled a little bit. So you might have had a little bit when he went down before, but it ultimately went on that last play. So that's kind of the way the luck's going. Roman Torres, of all people, the center back, serves in the ball of his life up on a platter for Clint Dempsey to snap over a guy who does his knee on the last play of the game. And sometimes you get that, that luck, it doesn't go your way, and but then it turns, and it'll turn, and we'll score some goals that you can't believe we score. We'll win some games you can't believe. We'll get some plays that will happen so it will turn around. I'm optimistic of that. We just can't get too high or low. Just got to keep going. But for me, I'm looking big picture. I don't want to look. This last game and losing the game wasn't about this game. It was about the pattern, the trend, and it was about more me wanting my team to play their potential and achieve what they should achieve this year.
I'm just trying to run through to my head. Can you talk about the options you kind of have at defensive midfield and center back, given that Olam is probably going to have to be alongside Miller at center back now?
Well, to put it in perspective, we played Zarek Valentin at holding mid today. I don't think he's ever played there in his life. So, that gives you a sense of kind of, where we're at. But, it depends a little bit how the dominoes fall, who's healthy. But we have to be prepared for the worst, and we have to be prepared if, we got another center back in, where does that bump other guys? But we'll still have a strong group, and we'll have a group that, has everybody's hopefully played in their role before. But I know if we end up going with Zarek, he hasn't. But we still have, we have a good attacking group, and we'll have some guys in the back that, are key guys, top guys. It's just in a couple positions we're through the first, second, third, in the chart. And when you get to that point, you got to start looking at, okay, who could play holding mid if you take it, because the other thing is if you take an injury, we now have no depth in certain positions.
And just in terms of leadership, which is something you mentioned after the game as well, you're going to be missing, depends on Nagby, I guess, but 3 or 4 of the people that you have on the leadership council, 3 or 4 of your biggest leaders on the team, with Chara, Ridgewell out, potentially Nagby. Where do you need the leadership to come from the guys that are going to be out there?
Yeah, well, again, I've been through seasons, a lot of them, and, a funny thing happens sometimes in a season where the light bulb goes on. The light bulb goes on with a few guys, and I'm going to say that this was a turning point. The light bulb went on for a few guys in terms of leadership, and that's what I wanted to happen. And it usually doesn't happen unless you go through adversity and you suffer a bit, you fail, and you got to look at yourself in the mirror, or you lose, leaders that are doing it for you, and now you got to make up for it. And I think the team's going to take even more ownership. There's going to be even more leadership moving forward, and they're all committed, like I said, to be not just a good team but a great team. And yet again, it'll come down to what they show in the games.
And then just with Ridgewell's timeline, out this weekend, but potentially back for Chicago, or is it still a little bit further down the road now?
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know. it's not progressing as quickly as we thought. You know, he's still having some discomfort in that quad, but definitely out this weekend. We'll see for next week.
Caleb, in 2015, I think Villafania missed most games on the back line and with 5, and this year there's been quite a war of attrition. Which is the anomaly?
What do you mean? I don't get the question. Sorry.
I guess which is the more unusual, just to have this sort of just the depth and the problems with like just getting a. I'm not even sure if you had the same back 4 in 3 games.
No. I would say that what we're going through is more typical than you think in MLS. If you went to other teams, you know, they'd probably say a similar story. I think it's more about the league and, like I said, the travel, and especially in the summer and the heat and the windows you play in, and then obviously when you lose guys to international duty, or if you have you know, a domino effect where you lose guys, then you can't rotate, then you lose more guys. And that happened a little bit last year, and it's happened this year a little bit. But I also think it's pretty typical in this league. You know, Kansas City's had as many injuries as anyone over the years, and they probably pride themselves more than anyone on the sports science. So there comes a point where if you're following the science, you probably, you know, can't be a fitness coach in MLS.